Welcome to today's webinar where we're going to be talking about event ROI for fundraising events. What are the top three money generators for all you event planners out there? We want to thank you all for joining us. We're excited to share lots of valuable tips and information with you here today. So real quick, I just want to share what our agenda and what we're going to be covering. We're going to just kind of do a welcome here, introduce ourselves. We're going to talk just about event ROI, what it is, and what it means for you as an event planner. We're going to address those three money generators. What are the three main pieces of an event that really generate that money, and finish off with some general fundraising tips. And then finally, we're going to have some Q&A. So the questions we want to hear from you, so don't hesitate to ask them during the webinar. We're going to wait until the very end to answer them, but if you see the little questions panel over on the right where it says questions, you can put your questions in there, and then we will go through them for about 15-20 minutes at the very end. So I definitely want to hear them, so throw them in there. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Ian Loth. I'm the VP of Marketing here at Winspire, and I'm joined today, thrilled to be joined today by one of my very good friends and talented event planners, Kelly Velasquez-Haig from One Cause. Welcome, Kelly.
Thanks, Ian. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, and super excited, I think pumped actually to talk today about event ROI. For those who don't know me, I am the Director of Content Marketing at One Cause, formerly BidPal. I also come at this from the fundraising side of the table. I was a Director of Development in Chicago for a private school, a former BidPal customer. Really love the world of fundraising, try to take, the expertise that we've learned along the way and just share it with fundraisers. So super excited to talk about this today, how to drive more bottom line profit to the events that we all do. So I'll hand it back to you, Ian.
Yeah, I love it. Kelly and I had a lot of fun putting this presentation together, talking about, just kind of the latest trends, because the event fundraising space, has changed a lot in the last few years, and it's just really exciting. I feel like it's a lot of great energy and a lot of growth. So I'm excited to share some of those tips today. Do you want to talk a little bit about One Cause? I know you guys just went through a big rebrand. For those of you out there who maybe knew them formerly as BidPal, they're now One Cause. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the name change, we were formerly BidPal, been around for 10 years, and now we call ourselves One Cause, just for the idea that, we felt BidPal kind of limited us to mobile bidding. And over the years, as you said, I mean, so many changes in the fundraising world, right? And so we wanted a name, I thought that we felt reflected more of the universal approach that we take, helping, one cause at a time through technology, whether that be mobile bidding, online, peer-to-peer. But really, we're passionate about helping nonprofits. So I think we're at $1.2 billion raised, over $1 million donors annually. We help our customers connect their donors. And I think we're actually close now through this fundraising season, about 15,000 events. But at the end of the day, it's the causes, it's the mission, it's the fundraising thought leadership that really drives us. And just super excited again to be here today. So thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Love working with you guys on this stuff and love what you guys have been doing. For those of you who aren't familiar with Winspire, what we do is we provide auction items and raffle prizes for your charity events, specifically travel. We're all about providing these incredible travel packages, experiences that you can offer your donors, and really round out your auction offering and use to raise money. So we've been in not quite as many events as One Cause there, but definitely a ton. We've been in over almost 50,000 events globally. We've serviced over 90,000 satisfied winning bidders. We're a full service travel agency, so it doesn't end at the auction. Once donors win an experience at your event, a Winspire experience, we are a full service travel agency that makes sure that they have an incredible time wherever it is in the world that they go. So we've helped raise over $50 million for nonprofit causes, which we're very proud of, and we continue to work towards each day, because as Kelly said, that's what it's all about, is raising money for you and for your mission. So definitely check us out online there. So today we're going to do kind of an overview about event fundraising and what the kind of the realities are of event fundraising these days. Did you want to say something before we kick it off here, Kelly?
No, I just think it's important to always, as we start to talk about bigger concepts in fundraising, whatever the topic be today being event ROI, is it always grounding it in, where are we as fundraisers and what's the reality that we face every day? And if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide, Ian. Truth be told, when it comes, I mean, there's a million challenges in fundraising, no matter what, there's never enough people on the team or hours in the day. But I think one of the big challenges we hear from our customers constantly is, how do we grab the share of wallet, right? With so many causes out there, right? And now with social media, the amplification of causes on a daily basis, and their events and their fundraising activities. How do we, one, stand out? And then two, how do we command the share of wallet? How can we make sure that we're driving the most dollars to our cause, the most dollars to our mission, in this crowded field that is fundraising right now? And I think, one of the things we'll talk about is, while this is a challenge, there are some easy things we can do within the fundraising juggernauts and events we have in place by simply thinking about our events slightly differently and putting in new strategies in place, trying new things. They can really have a big impact on the bottom line, and that's what Share a Wallet is really just driving dollars to our cause. So Ian, anything you want to add around the challenges?
Well, no, I totally agree with everything you just said, but I just, kind of want to, harp on how important events really are. I mean, they are one piece of your overall fundraising pie, but it's not just about raising money the night of. That is a huge piece. That's why we do it, obviously. But I mean, it is your FaceTime with your donors, right? And it's a huge recruitment tool for getting more people enrolled in your cause. So it's really important to think about your events in terms of not just the dollars raised, but also in a bigger sense, how can we use this to create that event community and that community of donors and constituents that are all in support of your cause?
Actually, and I think that's a really good point. And we talked about this, Ian, when we did our art and science webinar, I think back in the fall, is how do we use our events as catalysts for our larger fundraising, right? So today, while we're talking about very tactical things that we can do to increase event ROI, Ian's absolutely right. It's just it's like one touch point that should be part of a much larger donor journey.
Love it. Oh, that's awesome. Great. ROI, what does it mean, right? Return on investment, right? And what are we talking about? What are we investing here, Kelly?
Really, when we talk about ROI, it's, so a lot of fundraising and nonprofits out there, before I jump into this slide, when we talk about ROI, what are we talking about? We're talking really about what the net revenue is back to our event. So when we minus expenses out from our gross revenue, what's the ROI? And the best way to get a great ROI is to make sure that you are really beefing up your gross revenue, right? So those proceeds that are coming in, you're truly maximizing them. And that starts with, Ian, on the next slide. When we talk about, go ahead.
No, please, go ahead.
So when we talk about ROI, right, how do we net out and bring, the most return on investment? It really, it boils down to three simple things. And as much as possible, trying to, when we talk on these webinars, giving tangible, very concrete and simple things that we can all do. But I think ROI first and foremost starts with targeting and focusing. You're not going to pick 100 things to try to tackle, right? Again, never enough hours in the day to do everything we want to do. For our missions, but focus on the key areas. And today we're going to talk about three. You may have different ones in your nonprofit, but pick those key areas that are going to help you drive the most revenue and focus on those. Really, number two is it starts with data. Everything data. At One Cause, we talk a lot about using the historical data that you've got in your planner. If you're not a One Cause client, hopefully you're keeping your data somewhere else, and whether it be in your donor database, your CRM, an Excel spreadsheet, another fundraising software system, but always make data and historical results the key to planning your future success. And then I always just tell everybody, keep it easy, right? Make it easy on yourself. And that's what today is about, trying to share tips that every fundraiser can put into play. Many of them you guys will have heard before. Hopefully some of them are new, but the idea is, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's try to leverage what's out there, and let's try to share knowledge and share expertise.
Totally. And what I was going to say before, and I think this slide actually demonstrates really well, is a really simple way to think about ROI is not just about the money that you invest in the event, whether it's the venue or things that you actually spend money to put the event on, but it's also it's your time, right? Your time investment. Where are you spending your time that is going to get the greatest return in terms of that revenue when it comes to the event. And that's really what it comes down to. Those 3 money generators today that we're going to be talking about are the 3 things that you can invest the most time to, or should be investing the most time to generate that return, right? I can, bet you one thing that's not on there, right, is going to be something like decorations or the band or entertainment, right? What are those money generating things? Not necessarily they add to the event, but what is going to generate the most return for the amount of time that you put in? I think these 3 things really help kind of focus that a little bit more in terms of where to target, how to analyze, and how to stay efficient, because it's all about your time that you put in. Foundation for success. Did you want to take this one, Kelly?
No, why don't you go for it, Ian?
Cool. Yeah. So just like you were saying before, right? Making sure that you have event data. These are kind of the things that will help you start to build your event. These are the things you want to get in order. And with all of this, it's about making sure that you have that performance by area of event, right? You're not just taking an aggregate total of, hey, here's how much we raised, how much we spent. Figure out what is your expense ratio for things like the silent auction or the live auction, or the ticket sales, sponsorships. Breaking it down by area is going to be really important. Also putting together your teams, committees. Obviously, event committees have been around forever, but really being strategic about who you put on what team and who's in charge of what areas. And then the event marketing plan, right? That's crucial. Planning well ahead. It's June right now. So if you have a fall event coming up, right now is when you should be putting together the plan. Have a goal, have an overarching kind of strategy, and then what are the weekly touch points that you're going to be making, whether it's on social media, whether it's an email, whether it's a direct mail, that's going to be hitting those potential attendees to try to enroll them in the night of the event. And then just communication, right? Making sure that you have that software out there, a central tool that you can use to really bring this all together, because that's I know that I've been there before. You're spread in 1,000 different directions as the planner. How can you keep it all centralized in one place that makes it easier on you, so that your time is used more efficiently?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say too, one thing is it kind of pulls all of this together is don't be afraid to set goals for yourself, right? Set, and I don't mean like a net dollar goal, but what's your fundraising ratio? So, I hear it called a whole bunch of different things: pennies on the dollar, an efficiency ratio, net profit ratio. What that means is, for every dollar that is raised, how much is going back to the bottom line? So for every dollar raised, 86 cents goes back to the nonprofit and 14 goes to expenses. Don't be afraid to set goals like that for yourself along the way as well.
Great. Awesome. All right, let's talk about these 3 money generators. Love that picture, by the way. Great. So we've broken it down to the main 3, right, which are sponsorships, right? And that happens before the event, securing, capital before the event to actually underwrite the cost of your expenses, like the venue, the food, all these various things, so that more of the night of revenue goes towards your cause. There's promotion, right? You actually have to get people there, but careful here, right? It's not about getting the most people, it's about getting the right people, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. And then once they're at the event, what are the big hitters? What are the things that bring in the most money? And that's the auctions and the direct appeal. Those 3, the silent auction, live auction, and the direct appeal, usually happen in pretty close proximity to each other. And there's some tactics that you can definitely use to address and make those as successful as possible, which we're going to talk about as well. Did you want to say anything here before we dive in?
Yeah, I think I'll just caveat, we picked these 3 areas. They're the areas that we definitely feel have the biggest impact on ROI. But when it comes to auctions for today's webinar, what we're really going to be focusing on is a few live auction tips, and a little bit around funding. To be honest, we could probably do a 3-parter webinar series itself on event ROI just around the auction component. And maybe we'll do that if you guys tell us you want to do that in the future. But for today, we're not going to spread ourselves too thin. We're just going to focus really on live auctions and a little bit around appeals when it comes to the auction piece.
Love it. All right, let's talk sponsorships. Why don't you take this? I know you have plenty of experience going out there and soliciting businesses for sponsorships.
Yeah, and I think when we learn best is, as we'll talk in a little bit, as we learn from our customers well. But sponsorship is real impact. We hear a ton of buzz out there in the nonprofit community, whether we're at conferences, we're on other webinars, we're reading, is our sponsorship dollars drying up? Are there still enough sponsors out there? Yes, you can see that, corporate giving corporate sponsorship continues to grow. They're projecting that there's, $2.1 billion in charitable sponsorship dollars that are going to be given in 2018. So that's an increase of, a little over 4% year over year. There's a ton of options out there. I encourage everybody to think about not just how do we continue to grow the sponsors that we have, but how can we continue to find ways to engage new sponsors. So we just wanted to set the stage by saying, yes, it's real. Sponsorships are still a very viable, very hot area for nonprofits to focus on an event ROI. And hopefully we can give you a couple quick tips and strategies that you guys can put back into place when you think about your next event. Again, you'll hear me always say it starts with your data. I think the biggest tip is look at your sponsors first. I think we tend to jump to, okay, let me create the prospectus, let me create the slicks, let me create the campaigns. Figure out first and foremost who's given to you before, right? And what verticals are they in? Where do they give? I always look at 3 years because donor trends can change. Maybe a sponsor can't give to you 1 year just because they didn't give it to you last year, but they gave the year before. They're still a viable candidate. So look back 3 years. Look at the type of donation that they gave you. When did they give? That's incredibly important. I think especially as you start to get into bigger corporate dollars, a lot of them have very specific funding patterns, very specific timeframes and deadlines. Make sure you know that. Make sure you have it documented either in your CRM, your donor database, your Excel spreadsheet, your fundraising software, wherever. But know when you asked them and when you got the revenue. There's nothing worse than having a past sponsor that you've secured and then you miss the deadline and they can't give to you because it's outside of their funding window. And then, go ahead, Ian. Go ahead and add to that.
I think that's so crucial. I know that we've experienced that in the organizations I've been part of. Like if you miss out on that window, that's, they wanted to donate to you, but you didn't get to them in time. And so being very particular and, specific about those timeframes, and don't be afraid to ask, right? This is part of the conversation that you can have with them about, next year. It's an ongoing thing. It's not just about, when they can donate this year, but try to get into that annual cycle, and they'll be upfront with it, especially getting into those bigger corporations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, something we talk about in sales is this concept of upfront contract. You can do the same with your corporate sponsors, right? At the end of last year, thank you so much for your donation. May I reach out to you again next year? And if so, what's the time frame which is best to get into your corporate giving cycle? Don't be afraid to ask. And then with that, know the catalyst, right? Corporations, sponsors, whether they're a big business, a big corporation or a little, local business, which a ton of sponsorship comes from those people in our own backyard. Know the catalyst. Just like donors, just like individual donors, they have patterns. They have things that motivate them. Know why they give to your cause, and then make sure you're taking that information, documenting it somewhere, and then using that to craft the ask for next year. So that XYZ corporation or XYZ business down the street likes to give to X. Make sure you're documenting and make sure you're keeping part of that as part of your historical analysis.
Love it.
This is just a screenshot. Yeah, this is just a screenshot of what it looks like in our system. But this idea that you have a central place where you can track your sponsors that at a macro, and then be able to drill in at a micro level, what they give, at what level did they give, where you gave them the visibility, and then ultimately, the monetary value associated with their sponsorship. Great.
Cool. You talked about Catalyst. I thought this is a great kind of document that you guys had put together as far as mapping it out. This is kind of just another way to keep track. Is that right?
Yeah. So, we hear a lot out there that, when you go to sponsors, it starts, with your leaders. And it does, absolutely. I mean, rely on your board, know who your key donors are, know who your key volunteers are, the people that are most passionate, most involved in your cause, also probably have the most invested to help you get sponsors. But I think the piece that we often leave out is this idea of mapping it out, right? And that's the document you see on your left side. Ask them, ask your board, ask your donors, Ask your key volunteers, give them a document. This just happens to be one I've seen and used in the past, so that you're not just asking them, hey, who do you know, but you're asking them specifically, who might be able to give us a cash donation?
Yeah.
Who do you know that offers matching gifts? Who might I be able to target for goods, whether that be drinks, decorations, what have you. And then
Yeah.
services, often a piece that we leave out, but having somebody design your collateral, having a graphic designer, having somebody donate sound equipment, wow, that saves the bottom line, right? Because it becomes, underwriting, or not underwriting, but straight swap donations that really can help boost your budget at the end of your event.
I love it. I love these questionnaires. We suggest a similar thing when it comes to asking for donations for auction item donations, right? Starting with your board and distributing these sheets and keeping them accountable, right? These are people with busy schedules. So send these questionnaires out via email, give them a deadline, right? Hey, I need these back before, July 1st. If you could please send these back, and keep them accountable. These people are, they're invested in your cause. They want to help. And this is one of the best places to start, especially now as you're in the planning stages.
Yeah, and I would say in addition to like the virtual ask, like here's the document, fill it out. If you have a way in person at a board meeting, pass this paper out at a board meeting. Ask them to not leave the room until they've given you, their sponsor maps. Same with donor activities, volunteer activities. Stand up, make an appeal. Hey guys, we're starting our sponsorship. We have a goal to grow sponsorship by 100% this year. We'd love for your help. Take 5 minutes to fill out this questionnaire. Find ways, not just a one-off of send it out, but find ways to sprinkle this in as you begin to plan out your sponsorship approach.
Love it. I couldn't agree more. This is just kind of an example of how you would, start mapping it out, drawing it up, right? Have it, I would say, put it on big pieces of paper on your walls and start doing the big, make it known to the rest of your committee and your team. Put it in a public place, right? And start mapping it out so you can, as a team, start coordinating how it's going to be dealt with, how you're going to go retrieve these items, how you're going to go, do these things. Make sure it's big and open and public within your committee.
Absolutely. You'll be surprised at something simple like this sponsor map, as Ian just said, putting it up in your office or, volunteer room, wherever it is that your, event war room is. Just having this on the wall, it will galvanize action towards it, crossing people off, checking them off, putting people's faces next to the ones who secured the donation. Anything you can do to gamify it, right? You'll be surprised what you can do with it.
No, that's so true. I love it. I like the faces idea. Tailoring your offerings. This is another piece that we like to talk about a lot in terms of how do you approach these sponsors and what do you offer them? It doesn't necessarily have to be those cookie cutter sponsorship levels. It's what, and we actually got this from Lynn Page, who's the head of signature events over at JDRF. They bring in $70 million a year, over 80 events, and they approach their sponsors, each one individually, and they ask them questions and they listen more than they talk, right? And they try to find out what the sponsorship, what the company is looking for, and what do they need? Are they going to be attending the event? Are they looking for signage? Do they just want to underwrite the cost of a specific part of the event? Tailoring your offering to them is going to be a huge part of that. And one thing that we've seen a lot more of recently is actually, nonprofits going to companies and offering the chance to underwrite the cost of a consignment live auction item, like an incredible trip to Napa Valley, a trip that would normally be maybe out, kind of higher on the price range. If it's underwritten, 100% of the costs go directly to your cause, right? So tickets to Hamilton, maybe a trip to Paris, right? If it's donated by the law office or Mr. and Mrs. Smith, those donors are going to get recognized during the live auction when everyone's paying attention, and they're going to get a round of applause before the bidding starts. And they get that recognition. They get to see their investment of, say, $3,000 or $4,000 get amplified to much more than that, right? So underwriting the cost of live auction items is a great kind of tail end offering too, especially if you get maybe some no's on the big sponsorship ideas. Just a small, relatively small $3,000 to $4,000 investment for a package could go a long way and really kind of help them give during the event. Did you want to add anything there, Kelly?
I just think, just to back up what you're saying is, JDRF is obviously, an amazing model, and we'll talk a little bit more about them. I think one other example later on, but also some of the, the schools that I see, they're super creative around their offerings. And I think
Right.
the most important thing is, lay your offerings out on a table, map them out on a wall, however you do it, and make sure that you have a difference in the level. So if you're asking somebody for a $5,000 sponsorship and then your lowest level is 500, that there's a true difference between what that $5,000 sponsor is getting versus what the $500 sponsor is getting, right? And
Yep.
even that your midpoint has differentiation. If 2,500 is your midpoint, that is very different, and that the sponsor levels go up and down accordingly.
Totally. Yep. There needs to be the value, right? You need to present value, which is really important, value to the sponsors, because that's really what they're there for, right?
Yeah, and this is just an example. I think, when we talk about value, these are just three levels that you actually, from actually learning from ourselves. This is from our, raise sponsorship is which is our event fundraising conference. What would our three sponsors get? What's the difference between what an innovator gets versus a visionary? And again, come up with creative titles. There's nothing wrong with platinum, gold, and silver. But if you can put some jazz around it and you can really start to brand what your titles are, and then again, making sure that what you're giving them within, not just within the levels, but within the buckets here, like what are you going to get on social? What are you going to get at the event? What are you going to get for digital? That there's a true difference between those. Anything, Ian, you wanted to jump in on?
No, I mean that's this really kind of are the kind of three main ones, right? They're looking for exposure, they're looking for acknowledgement. So there's a lot of ways you can get creative with it, but there's the pre-event and then the night of the event, where you can really give, and even potentially post-event where you can give them that recognition. So just making sure you lay it all out so they can see the full value of what they're getting for their investment, because you want to speak business lingo, right? We're talking about a return on investment today. You want to be talking about return on investment with each and every one of your sponsors.
And I would say too, real quick, is digital visibility is huge, right? Big and small sponsors love this concept of digital visibility. So if you're using fundraising software, you're using mobile bidding, right? Actually, can you back up one, Ian? Yeah, if you're using fundraising software, mobile bidding, find ways to weave in that digital visibility, right? Whether it's showing logos, it's showing logos on the online pre-bidding sites, it's giving people scoreboards or leaderboards or whatever it is. Even if you're not using mobile bidding or fundraising software and you've got a projector, have a screen that shows sponsor logos at the event. But get into the digital realm, challenge yourself to think about the ways that you can showcase people electronically, and on phones and laptops, wherever there's a screen. So
Yeah,
if
if you
you
can
can
give,
go ahead and
yeah.
go ahead.
You want
This just gives you, yeah, just this is one of a client that is in Chicago as well. And so see how they're using digital visibility here down on their online giving site, right, where people are going ahead of time to make a donation, buy their tickets. They are showcasing their sponsors. And believe it or not, very sophisticated in who gets shown, how often they get shown, for how long they get shown. And then on the right side, on the phones at the event, right, making sure that you designate if you've got a higher level sponsor, their logo comes up more often or it comes up for a longer period of time. But really, just a quick example of how digital visibility can play itself out in the world and will really truly drive revenue dollars for your cause if you get creative about offering digital as part of your sponsorship packages.
It's great. Yep. Opportunities to prevent more value. So here's kind of the roadmap we came up with. Of course, as Kelly likes to say over and over, right? Start with your data, absolutely valid. Make sure that you're looking historically at your sponsorships. Lean on your leadership. Your board is where you need to start as far as asking for various sponsorship levels and things, and tapping into their constituents that they know, mapping it out, getting your goals, and then the tactics that you're going to put in place to reach those goals, and then tailoring your offering, making sure that you have a bunch of different options to deliver that value, and then getting creative with those levels that we just demonstrated, making sure that those different value-driven sponsorship levels are catered to each level. So did you want to add anything here?
Nope, I think you did a great job.
Cool. Promotion. This is a doozy, right? This is what you guys, you all should be maybe gearing up for here coming up in July if you have a September or November event. And that starts with getting the right butts in seats. So one thing that I always like to talk about is promotion is not all about how many tickets you can sell. Ticket revenues is a huge part of getting some of that cost of the event down, but it's more importantly that you're getting the right people in your community that are the business owners, the executives, the community leaders, the people who are actually going to come and spend money on your cause. If you get a giant band that everyone in town loves and you get 400 tickets, but only about a third of those are actually going to participate, that's not a fundraiser, right? The objective here is to get people who are going to come and help you raise money for your cause. So it's not about the most tickets, it's about getting the right tickets sold to the right people in your community. And determining who those are totally depends on your situation. But again, you can start with your leadership, start with your board if you're just starting to build out your attendee list. But make sure you're thinking strategically about that. I love your examples here, Kelly. Did you want to kind of talk about? Well, this kind of goes into the audience tiers here, right? In terms of percentage-based mix of the percentage of your audience that's going to participate in the live auction, about 10%, right? 10, 30, 60. 10% is going to participate in your live auction. Make sure that your live auction items, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, aren't trying to cater to everybody 100%. It's just that 10% of your high spenders, right? 30% of your audience is going to participate in the appeal, right? Make sure that you have enough of your audience there that's going to be donating at even your lowest level, whether that's $100 or 150, right? And then the 60 that are going to come, they're going to maybe buy a raffle ticket, they're going to participate in the silent auction. It's just important to have this makeup so that you know that you're going to be engaged with every single constituent within your audience at some level in terms of the money generators that you put in front of them, right? And then why don't you cover example number 2 with the table captains?
Yeah, for sure. Let me, before I go to example 2, just real quick on the percentage model. We didn't make this up, guys. This actually comes from real life customers that have told us that they use this. And I think I had one customer say what they do is they lay out graphically once their table seating is done, they got the chart, the circle charts, right? That got everybody seated where, and they literally will color code them with Post-it notes and make sure that 10% of the people will participate, they think, in their live, and that 30% of those seated are their appeal, and that 60% will likely, based on historical data, participate in the silent. They visually map it out to make sure that they haven't gotten off track, which I think is a super interesting way to hold yourself accountable to the ratio. The table model in example 2 really comes from JDRF, and other nonprofits do it out there too, but JDRF is probably the master of the table model, this idea that you get captains, right. And these captains have cultivation events. Their job is they're like the advocate for getting the right people seated at their table who are connected to the cause, understand the mission, walk into the event knowing it's a fundraiser, right? Not just a party, but they know the expectation is fundraising, and they walk in. JDRF knows. I mean, Lynn Page talks about this. She talked about it at Raise last year and on our webinars, that they know the dollars estimates at least before they even walk into the room. And so when you're thinking about your guests, make sure you have a strategy, as Ian said, not just about the total number of tickets, but what am I going to do with these people? How do I expect them to engage in my event? And then really start to gear everything around that. This Dream on 3 picture, and then we'll move on. I know we've got time, is Dream on 3 is a customer out of North Carolina, and what they did, they decided last year that they were going to target corporations and create corporate challenges, right? And so they had 8 local corporations who were responsible for seating people at a table, and then literally they ran a donation appeal on our leaderboards. They had the 8 corporations and then the dollars that came in for that on the appeal. And you can see this one woman, this is a live person, as her corporation took, number 1 in the corporate challenge. But it's just a really, I thought, a smart, innovative way to think about how you can engage your guests once you have a guest strategy.
That's great. Awesome. There's the typical channel as far as actually just promoting, getting the word out. We've talked at length about the various channels, and you're probably well aware of all of them out there. They've never been more, efficient, and in terms of like the tools that you're given now in terms of email marketing, social media, print and flyers. There's just so many tools. We're going to show some tools here in a second, but you also have your local news and event outlets, writing up press releases and distributing those, following up on them, and calling your local, radio or local news outlets. Direct mail, of course, it's a dinosaur, but it's still around, right? It's people actually now more than ever probably. We'll see something in the mail and because they don't get as much anymore, and recognize it as your event. So another, it's still a good way to do. Newspapers, magazines, and then I love this, the PS lines. Whenever you're communicating and doing your donor communications, whether it's a thank you for a donation, you always want to kind of be mentioning your yearly event. You have these things planned out, hopefully a year in advance. So always keeping it top of mind whenever you're communicating that, hey, remember we have our event coming up. We'd love to see you there. Did you want to add anything to that?
No, I just think that the PS lines, if you're not using them, as Ian said, use them. You're already communicating to them throughout the year. So make sure you're talking about whether you're just giving them a save the date in a PS line. Hopefully you're using a call to action, right? Sponsorship, tickets, whatever it is, donations. But use those PS lines. They really do work.
Great. Social. This is, I mean, it kind of speaks for itself, but I know that it can be a little overwhelming in terms of all the channels that you should be out there, but you want to be catering towards the channels that are already speaking to your audience. So if you have a big Facebook following, make sure that you are investing the proper amount of time in communicating with your constituents on Facebook, creating that event page early, posting about live auction items as you secure them, or early on, right? If you get a consignment Winspire package, we give you all the materials to make sure that you're posting it out there, getting people aware and hyped about what's going to be in the live and silent auction. So make sure that social, definitely want to start early. If you can do, in these days, people don't need fancy director's cut videos anymore. If you can shoot some stuff on your phone of you planning the event, here's the team, we're getting ready, we're getting geared up, and posting that on social media, on Facebook, going live and talking about, oh my gosh, we just secured this incredible auction item, or guess who's going to be at the event, we just found out, A-list celebrity in your community. Those are great excuses to get out and get in front of your constituents, because people are on social media, so you should be communicating with them. Did you want to add anything there?
Yeah, just that I totally agree with you, but it's point number 3 that I think really stands out, starting early. So I monitor the social media for one cause, which means I'm seeing hundreds of fundraisers on a daily basis. And what I've seen is the trend has definitely, people are getting out there well before now their tickets go on sale, right? It used to be we just started social once we started selling our tickets. People are really, nonprofits are getting smart. They're starting to use save the dates in social media. They're starting to tell when tickets are going to go on sale. Then they're starting to promote when tickets go on sale. Then they're starting to promote when their auction items go online for bidding. Their sponsors, the whole continuum now. So start early. Those are the ones that are getting the most traction by the time they walk into the event night, because now it's not just 4 hours of on-site fundraising. You have unlimited time to broadcast your message on social and for free, right? The other thing I would say is tag your vendors, tag your sponsors, right? Tag away, right? Because that's how you're going to get maximum reach as well. And then you're going to engage their networks if you're using tagging as part of your social strategy.
Yeah, and they love that. That's more exposure for them, right? So, and always be connecting these, whatever posts you do, back to your cause in some way, and so, in some form, because you don't want people to lose sight of the fact that that you're raising money for an important cause, right?
Yeah, and I'll just add one last thing. Actually, can go back a quick second. And if I'm working left to right from those icons, if you're using videos, Ian said it doesn't need to be fancy. It just needs to be heartfelt and authentic. Use video all the time. Twitter, super quick burst messages, right? Fast announcements. Instagram, pictures of your cause, pictures of your event, pictures of whatever. Just use it as a very visual format. LinkedIn, that's where you're connecting your table captains, you're connecting your corporate sponsors, your board members, your volunteers. Use LinkedIn in a much different way than the other ones, right? And then Facebook, that's all about the fun, right? That's where you're broadcasting your event. You're showing pictures of last year's event. But really think about how you use each of your social channels differently from the other.
Yeah, LinkedIn is also a great place to go do some research for sponsorship stuff, because you know all the connections out there, right? Starting with your board, that's really where you can start to get some names and some positions of people in your community. Cool. Moving
Okay,
along, we
I'm
got
just,
2 minutes to go here, so let's hope we can
here we
get
go.
to it.
Yeah, we're gonna get to it all.
We're gonna get to it.
Online, we're gonna get to it all. Online engagement here, right? Just super quickly, be cognizant, be intentional and strategic about how you go online, right? So that if you've got an online, and this is, a picture of what we call an online giving center, where you're a fundraising site, where you're driving people to buy tickets, you're showcasing your sponsors, you're getting them there early. We're seeing the groups that are starting online engagement at 2 months to 45 days before their event, seeing somewhere between a 20 to 35% ROI increase at the end of fundraising. Why? Because you're getting them out early, you're driving excitement. Doesn't mean your event's done at 60 to 45 days. I mean, sometimes they're not done until the lights come on, right? But you're getting some kind of presence online, and that you're integrating your ticketing, and that you're updating it on a weekly basis. And as your auction gets closer, you're going in and updating your items daily, and you're in that top right hand corner. For us, you're posting to Facebook and Twitter directly from your online site.
Great.
Virtual communities, and I'm just going to say something real quick and then let you start. But it's this idea, guys, that we don't have to just rely on the community that shows up the night of the event. If we're doing our event promotion correctly, if we're leveraging social traditional channels, we can create a virtual community and getting people to engage with our mission 24/7. That's what's wonderful about online.
Right. Yeah, this is an example from Scott Harrison from Charity Water. Just and that kind of social proof, that social justification. And if you can get other people to engage in that virtual community, the more other people are going to feel like they're missing out if they don't join, right? That's kind of the whole point of creating that event community, the virtual community. Make them feel like they will miss out if they aren't going to be there. That will get them to buy tickets and participate. Cool. New tools. We talked about this a little bit earlier, just in terms of the vast number of tools that are out there. Just in terms of design, there's a lot of new ones. Canva is really cheap. You don't have to get the full PowerPoint, or not PowerPoint, excuse me, Photoshop to create really cool graphics for social media. There's tons of really cool, and they provide a lot of photos and kind of animation type graphics for social media. CompFight and Desk to Stock Photos are, I know Desk to Stock Photos is a free resource there. Social, there's various ways that you can manage all of your social channels across in one platform. They list a couple here. I know not listed here also is email providers, right? ESPs, otherwise, MailChimp is a very popular one. Constant Contact as well. Emma, I think, is another really big one. They're pretty low cost alternatives for communicating with your database. And then video. I know that there's a variety of ways. Just posting it to YouTube, of course, is free. There's other kind of options that allow you to have analytics into how far people watch your videos, how engaged they are. You can put links in the videos if you want to get a little bit more in depth with your kind of video campaigns. But just make sure before you pour a ton of time into things like video or these things, what is your end goal here, right? You want to have an end goal, and then fill in the tactics and the steps that you're going to take to get there. And if video is, if your cause, if you have a ton of video that you can leverage, your cause is video worthy, then you should definitely be using that to try to communicate or connect your potential donors with your cause and get them enrolled and get them excited about the event. Make sure you keep videos short though. I love that little graphic, right? Nothing over 60 seconds. 60 to 90 seconds, I would say, is max, especially for things like social media, or even if you're putting a video into an email and then sending it out. People's attention spans are not any further than that unless it's a studio quality flick, right? So just make sure that you keep your videos short. All right, finally, we're going to be talking about the live auction and the fund of need. These usually, the night of the event kind of go together. The order is kind of up for debate in terms of how you want to run your event. There's definitely a lot of opinions out there about that, but usually they're kind of conjoined, right? Whether the fund of need happens at the beginning, middle, or end, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of up to you, but as far as the biggest moneymaker, these together are going to bring in the most revenue. There's of course the silent auction, which we'll talk about a tiny bit. But as far as auction promo goes, we talked a little bit earlier about the importance of promoting every single auction item as you kind of secure them or strategically place them, over the weeks leading up to your event, to get people to understand what is going to be at your event so they can come prepared to spend, right? You want to promote your wow items, your hottest items, the things that are going to get, be a spectacle for everyone in the audience to watch people bid on when they come in the live auction. Here's our top 5 best sellers at Winspire right now. Tuscany has been hot now for over almost 8 months. It's remained our #1 top seller. We have a great little truffle hunt that we offer as well. Ireland has been huge recently. Hamilton, of course, is still very big, but now it's been spreading to a bunch of different cities like Chicago and LA. So that's a really good one. Punta Cana, just anything tropical, usually goes really well. And of course, Napa Valley is always in our top 5, whether it's Napa or Sonoma, getting people who've never been to the wine country in California. I mean, it's a world destination. I was just in Italy and talking to people there, and their dream was to go to Northern California, to Napa Valley. So it is a world destination. So offering these things and promoting them before your event is going to allow people to, prepare their wallets, right? As opposed to coming in the night of and, being blown away by what's being offered and having that hushed conversation at the table. Mr. and Mrs. Smith can talk about it before and come prepared to spend the big money when it comes to your live auction. Maximizing consignment. So consignment, for those of you who don't know, right, you don't have to pay anything to offer our packages, use our packages in your event. You only purchase them afterwards, and only if they sell and actually raise money. But it's crucial that you are catering your offering to your audience interests, right? You want to make sure, just like we talked about with the board, you only have about 10% of your audience that you're targeting with these live auction items, right? So you want to make sure that you understand that's not that many people, right? If you have a 300 person event, right, that's 30 people who you have to go find out where they want to go, what they want to do, what they're interested in buying, right? So if you do the legwork, do the research, ask them, they're not afraid to tell you what they're interested in, then cater your auction offering to those interests. You're going to have a dramatically more successful event, right? And that goes for both donated items and consignment items. You want to set that strategy out there first, finding out those interests, and then go try to procure those things in your community, and then also procure those things from consignment companies like Winspire, right? And then you have a full auction offering of 10 items, right, that you can do in under 45 minutes, and you can get the live auction in front of you done in under an hour. Then you'll have, you've fully leveraged the amount of time that you have where they have their undivided attention set to you. So make sure that you are kind of just thinking strategically about what items you're putting out there and promoting to both get the people to the event and then get there to spend money. Did you want to add anything here?
No, I mean, yeah, it's all about putting the right items in front of the right people.
Perfect. Selling multiples. So this goes for both donated items and consignment items. I'll talk about donated items real quick. When you're going out there and you are soliciting, let's say, a restaurant, right? Let's say you're creating a date night package, right? And a date night for 2 with, dinner, a show, maybe a horse-drawn carriage or a limo service, and then maybe a babysitter, right? It's a full package, right? You want to make sure those live auction items have a tremendous, high perceived value. They come kind of as a package deal because people are going to spend more money on something like that. But when you go to the restaurant, for example, and you ask them for, the donation, first of all, you don't want to just ask them for a dinner. You say, hey, we want to feature you in this package, this date night package that we're putting together, and we're approaching, various high-end restaurants in the community to see if they want to participate. Would you be interested? We wanted to come to you first to see if you'd be interested to participate. That makes them feel like they're missing out, or somebody else is going to jump in there if they don't, right? So you're creating that package, you're demonstrating the value for the restaurant owner. And so when they do decide to say yes and say, okay, I'd love to be a part of this, then you can stop and say, that's fabulous, thank you so much. If lightning strikes twice and we get a ton of interest in this package, right, and we get to sell it above a certain amount, would you be interested in donating too, right? And even if they say no, you can still sell the package multiple times, because if you sell it above a certain value, you can go back, find the retail value of that dinner for 2 with a wine tasting or whatever, and you can say, hey, we're going to come back and purchase it from you retail. If we get over a certain amount and we have enough interest in the package, we're still going to sell it multiple times. We'll come back and purchase it from you retail, right? I guarantee you, if you go back to them, they're either going to give you a discount on that dinner, or even give you an additional donation if there was a tremendous amount of interest in it, because they want to be out there. They want to be if there's a big amount of interest in the package, right? They want to be in front of those donors. So even for donated items, you can sell them multiple times. For consignment, we see it all the time. That's the biggest way that you can amplify your revenue on a consignment travel package, right? If you know, a package that costs $3,000 for a nonprofit, if you sell it to one bidder for $6,000, you're going to make $3,000, right? But if you sell 3 packages at $5,000, right, that's a $2,000 profit 3 times. You just made $6,000. That's doubling your profit, and then you have 3 happier winning bidders because they paid less for the package. So selling more consignment packages at a lower value will often raise more money in the end. I know I kind of just went through that example really quick, but it's a really good example of how much money you can raise if you are selling packages multiple times, both donated and consignment. Direct appeal. Did you want to speak quickly about the direct appeal there, Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like, one slide on a direct appeal is like what we could give you of max value. We could do a whole webinar on this. I mean, the direct appeal is really gaining in popularity. We're seeing a ton of events that hadn't done direct asks before. So getting up and making a direct ask for direct donations, but make sure they're fast. That they're done in less than 15 minutes. With technology, without technology, what you think is going to engage your donors. We obviously professional benefit auctioneers, seeing thousands of events. The ones who are investing in auctioneers, it's crucial. And I know there are a lot of nonprofits out there probably listening like that's just not in our budget. Find an underwriter. Try to challenge yourself to get a sponsor to do it. It is a benefit auctioneer, whether they're using technology, they're running a traditional paddle raise, can be the difference. It should more than offset the cost. So, when I look at that, people are saying, well, that's an expense. Yeah, but the return on that expense is much greater than not having that at your event. Seed donations if you can, right? Get some people in the room to help galvanize by standing up and giving leadership gifts or making initial donations. You'll be surprised that when a few people at tables spread across the room start to give, what that will do for the people sitting around them.
Totally. And let me just add here too. I mean, I actually put benefit auctioneer on this slide intentionally because benefit auctioneer is almost a misnomer for what these people do. They're almost more important for the direct appeal than they are, equally important for the direct appeal as they are for the benefit auction, right? And you think a benefit auctioneer is expensive? Well, it's a lot more expensive not having one, just because of how much they know how to pull from the room in these cases, right? And so, it's, as far as benefit auctioneers are concerned, right, they'll pay for themselves within the first few minutes of getting up there. And as far as how to structure direct appeals, the most common ones I've seen, I know there's a variety of styles, but starting high with those pre-secured major gifts that you know are going to happen, because the last thing you want is to start at a certain level and hear crickets, right? So you want to have a few pre-secured major gifts that are up high, and then you go down and you start going lower, right? And you kind of have a way that you go down, and it varies in terms of where to finish it, but you want to give almost everyone in the room a chance to participate. I usually see it finish around $150. What about you, Kelly?
We're seeing a big rise in open appeals.
Yeah.
We've seen that over the last couple of years. And what that means is that the benefit auctioneer or whomever's running the appeal will literally get up and say, okay, guys, Ben Farrell does this amazing, but we're in the next 4 minutes, we're going to raise $25,000 for XYZ cause. I encourage everybody to take out your phones. And again, you can do this with a paddle raise. Take out your phones. We don't care if you're giving at $5,500 or $5. It's all about what we can do together here in this room right now. And then usually there's a leaderboard with a thermometer. And what you're doing is galvanizing everybody around a common goal, regardless of the amount that they are putting in. And what we're finding is that our nonprofits are able to capture the lower donations who might not otherwise do it in a cascading high to low appeal because they're a little self-conscious. But yeah, so we're seeing a big rise in open appeal format.
I love it. All right, moving right along. Identifying donors. This is huge, right? We talked about this at the very beginning. how events are not just about raising money, but they're also a recruitment tool, right? Hopefully, if your promotion is going well and you're out there engaging your, your most important constituents, getting table captains, you are getting people to your event who have never been exposed to your cause before, right? And those are the people that you want to be talking to. And as far as you're concerned, right, identifying high network donors at your event who would be willing to become recurring donors or come back to more events, you want to engage with them. So how do you figure out who they are? Well, what we recommend, and it's one of the best reasons to have big live auction items, big experiences, is to write down every single donor who bids on an auction item above $1,000, and that goes for the silent auction as well, right? These are people that you want to follow up with, take out to lunch, and start engaging with. And if you're using bidding software like OneCause, you'll have all that data, which is great, and you can go see kind of their bidding patterns, and even in the funding need too, it goes for that as well. So making sure that you're following up with those donors who were bidding above a certain amount, so that you can try to engage them more in your cause. I think that's it. Holy crap, we got all the way through it.
We did. Let's take some questions while we got a few minutes.
I love it. All right, that was great, Kelly. Let's see here. Beth Carey says, I'd love a silent auction webinar. All right, we will note that. Thank you, Beth.
We will note that.
This is from Katie Clements. What percentage of your event fundraising goal should come from sponsorships? Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so that's a tricky question. I mean, I guess it depends on how big your goals are, and what I would do is work backwards and say, based on historical data, right? Our silent has brought in X, our live has brought in X. What percentage increase can we expect on those two components year over year? And then work my way backwards if I was starting from scratch to be like, okay, if this is my goal, then I need to try to get X in sponsorship. I know when I was a director of development, it was, I think, 17% of our total proceeds that we raised. That was actual. We tried to set around 20% as a goal. Again, I think it depends on your total dollar amount. I think the most important thing is set a goal and make sure that you're working towards it.
That's totally true. I totally agree. Here's from Lynn Page as far as the signature.
Lynn Page! Did she hear us talk about her twice?
No. I'm saying this is, I wish she was listening.
I thought you meant she asked you the question.
No, I looked up an email real quick from her as far as breakup of, percentage of revenue coming from the various aspects. 27% from sponsorships, 6% from ticket sales, 49% funded need, 9% live auction, 7% silent, and then 1% revenue enhancers like raffles and games. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what kind of the breakup can be. So hopefully that helps, Beth. And then Katie Clements, excuse me, that was the question from Katie. Thank you for that, Katie. Let's see. Let's see, Donna Steller. Can we view this presentation after? Of course, we're going to be sending it out. Sorry, I'm just kind of sifting through these here real quick. I thank you for the corporate challenge idea. This one's from Candace. I love it. Would you happen to know if the nonprofit provided a prize gift to the winning bidder or the winning corporation?
I believe I know that the coveted prize was this trophy, and it was like a glass orb. And that's what they won, and it was all about the local bragging rights, and then they gave post-event PR around it. I believe there was a social campaign and some other local media coverage around the winning corporation, but I don't believe that there was any exchange of funds. Obviously, it was about what they were raising for the cause, but you can get super creative with that idea. Again, it's Dream on 3 out of North Carolina. They do really, really innovative stuff around corporate challenge.
Love it. Thank you for that, Candace. This one's from Donna Stetler. Using board members, I struggle to get all of our board members at our gala. Would you suggest asking board members to be the table captain to bring in their family and friends? If you do this, do you offer them a discounted ticket? I'm just thinking about a hook for them to be involved.
Yeah, I would definitely suggest that you have your board members be table captains. I would also have it be a criteria for recruiting board members, as they know coming in that they are responsible for filling a table at the event. And so that's part of their upfront contract on their board requirements. I don't see a lot of people giving discount on tickets for the board members. They'll give a discount on tickets, prorated across a table of 10, so you get a slight ticket break. What I do see is, again, instead of this idea of a corporate challenge as a board challenge, right? The board member who raises and brings in the most people to the event or the most donations. I'm seeing nonprofits find ways to, gamify and incent their board members and challenges as well.
That's great. And so the same question or a similar question from Donna, like what are your thoughts on offering small discounts for those who purchase between 45 and 60 days out?
We do see early birds. That's popular. I would say I would even front load it further, and I would have I would do it earlier. Offer your early bird discount outside of the 40 to 60 to 45-day window. Try to get them more revenue in the door as early as you possibly can. Right? Maybe 90 days out if you can push it.
Great. This next question, thank you for that, Donna. This next question is from Lindsay. How do you go about finding the right auctioneer for your event? We can't seem to find a good fit. I totally understand where you're coming from. You can follow up with both myself or Kelly at One Cause or Winspire. I know that we work with various auctioneers that we would absolutely recommend. Another great resource is the National Auctioneers Association. Those with a benefit auctioneer specialist designation. You can go there to, if you type in NAA or the benefit auctioneer specialist, you can find a list of auctioneers in your area. And many auctioneers will travel. So you can set up interviews for auctioneers that are not necessarily in your city or even in your state, and do a Skype call with them. Ask them to send. The biggest thing is you want to make sure that you do your due diligence, right? Ask them for videos of them auctioneering. Ask how involved they're going to be in the planning of your event, because the good ones, the best ones these days, are going to advise you on the auction items that you're prepping, on the timing, the agenda of your event. So make sure that you get someone who has a track record and a history of performing well, and then and make sure you go out there and interview plenty of them. They'll travel to come meet you for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I would say on the auctioneer thing, feel free to go to our website. We have our vetted auctioneer partners. There's no financial exchange here, just partners that our customers have worked with that we know are good, are on our website. There's also a webinar I did earlier in the year with a benefit auctioneer explaining the differences and why you would, what does a benefit auctioneer do and what are they certified to do.
Great. Yep. Let's see. Kristen Melton, can you re-explain underwriting live auction costs? Yes, I'll do it real briefly here, Kristen. Basically, what you're doing is you are offering the opportunity for a company like a local, it's great for dentist's office, lawyer's office, companies who don't necessarily have something to donate for the live auction, but giving them the opportunity to underwrite the cost of a travel experience, such as a Winspire travel package, something to Napa Valley that has a nonprofit cost of say, $3,500. They can, write a check for the cost of the package, then you include it in your event, and then 100% of the proceeds, whatever is bid on that item, will go directly to your bottom line, and it'll often be a lot more than that $3,500 investment that they made. So it's a really, really good option, just kind of to offer it. You're having either those sponsorship talks or donation talks with companies around your town. Todd Stenner, thank you for that, Kristen. Todd Stenner, I know you didn't deal with fund and need, but can you just touch on your thoughts about that, about the importance of doing it? I can say it's an absolute must for all events. Did you want to touch on anything more about fund and needs while I look through some more questions here, Kelly?
Yeah, sure. So we talked about this in our art and science of benefit auctions, is that you should think about your event as a pyramid, like 10% to 15% of your people at top pinnacle participate in the live, right? And then if you looked at the bottom tier, that the biggest, broadest swath, 60% participate in your silent auction. And these are all rough estimates. What we often forget is that middle section. I don't have necessarily the capital or the income to buy a $10,000 trip. and I don't necessarily need another set of Cubs tickets or golf clubs. But boy, if I'm motivated, I'll give you money for your cause if you tell me what program it's going to go to and how it's going to benefit and impact people. And so nonprofits often forget or feel a little weird about asking for the direct ask. Absolutely. Fund a need, make a donation, whatever you call it, direct appeal should be part of every fundraiser. Not just one year, but every year.
Great. Yeah, and on that note from Catherine, does the open appeal work if you don't have phone bidding? Absolutely. You can just have bid cards that you raise, and that's actually the traditional way that funded needs work. And you call out the bid numbers, have somebody write it down at the various levels that the auctioneer calls out. It's a great way to kind of drive competition, and people can see how much each other is bidding. And then thank you for that.
Can I answer that? Because I think what she was saying is in the open format where everybody gives at non-specific levels, can you do it with a traditional paddle raise?
Is that what she's asking? Okay.
Yeah. So you can. It's trickier, to be perfectly honest. If you're going to go in that format, you have to have a lot of runners, right? People stationed around the room to go and ask people at what level they're giving. It can get a little messy. It can get a little complicated. So open format does work best when you have a technology solution in place.
Great catch. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
We're going to take a couple more questions here, and then we'll call it a day. If you have anything left to ask, please do so now. This one's from Burju. Really great stuff today. Do you have any advice on increasing the level that past sponsors have given at? We haven't pressed sponsors to increase over the past 3 years and want to. Any tips that can on that conversation would be great.
Yes, so it's all about value. And so when I'm trying to upsell my sponsors, I go and say, oh, you've been so wonderful. We appreciate your donation in the last 3 years at 1,500. Would love to talk to you about moving up to the visionary level, right? And then literally presenting it to them, not in an email. If you can get them on the phone, talk to them, that's great. If you have to do it in email, you can as well. But really acknowledging the gifts that they've made in the past, presenting the value of them upgrading to a new level, right? And also, again, with everything, what those extra dollars are going to allow you to do, right? The impact of them basically upgrading.
Great. All right, I'm just going to do 2 more here. This was just a great little tip from Michelle Arnett. We have an early bird, but we don't discount tickets. We add a free raffle ticket to the early bird ticket, which I love. Great idea.
Yeah, I like that idea. That's a good idea. Free cocktails too. I've seen people offer free cocktails.
Ooh, hey, I would buy tickets early for a free cocktail drink. This last one, and then we're going to call it quits here today. From Mary, do you tell attendees if there will be a multiple live auction item or that you'll able to sell multiples, or should it be a surprise in the evening? Absolutely, 100% should be a surprise. People will not bid as much if they know it's a multiple. And on that note, you want to make sure that you space out the items that you can sell multiple times. So never put 2 items together or one right after the other that you end up selling multiple times. You want to space them out and keep people guessing, because people will try to game the system and not bid if they know it's going to be sold multiple times. So absolutely keep it a secret, and then only you can even have some theatrics. For the auctioneer, you have somebody on the side whispering, and then the auctioneer said, oh, I just found out we secured an extra package because of the level of interest. You want it, you want some kind of theatrics there, and get people excited, get people guessing. It's a very exciting part of the event, the live auction. So hopefully that answered your question. Did you want to say anything else, Kelly, before we sign off?
No, I don't. I'm just super glad to be here. It was an awesome webinar. So thank you, Ian, so much for hosting. Let's start talking about our silent auction webinar.
Yeah, I'm excited to start planning. Yeah, thank you again so much for coming and sharing your knowledge here today, Kelly. And I want to thank everyone out there for who tuned in today. We hope to see you back here for another webinar here coming up.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.